Welcome to the Supreme Court Podcast. All opinions expressed in this podcast do not reflect the views of the Supreme Court. For clarity, the text of the decision prevails.
There's a new coffee cart brewing in town. It's called Espresso, not the concentrated shot, but X for former and preso, which in Filipino means prisoner. Espresso is a mobile coffee cart project of the Philippine Jesuit Prison Service Foundation Incorporated that employs as baristas former persons deprived of liberty or PDLs. By providing former PDLs with a means of livelihood, the PJPS Espresso cart brews not just coffee, but hope in every cup. In part 2 of this episode on reform, rehabilitation, and reintegration, Sandiganbayan Associate Justice Karl Miranda talks about Espresso. He has been supporting as part of efforts to help PDLs reintegrate into society. Justice Miranda also discusses the Good Conduct Time Allowance or GCTA and shares his perspective as chairperson of the Justice Sector Coordinating Council Technical Working Group or TWG on sector-wide data reconciliation. How do we address the stigma faced by former PDLs and help the public see that there is still hope that persons deprived of liberty can rebuild their lives and become productive members of society once again? And we're back with Justice Karl Miranda of the Sandiganbayan. Welcome back to the Supreme Court Podcast, Justice.
Good day, Attorney Mike. It's good to be back.
Thank you, Justice, for coming on board again.
My pleasure.
All right. You have this project with the Philippine Jesuit Prison Service Foundation Incorporated, or PJPS. You have this Espresso Cafe project. So you heard it right. It's not a wrong pronunciation of espresso. It's really Espresso, to refer to people formerly deprived of liberties, whom we now call PRLs, or people restored of liberty. Can you tell us about this?
Yes, Attorney Mike. You know, Espresso is a project and advocacy of the Philippine Jesuit Prison Service Foundation to help reintegrate persons restored to liberty. Ang tawag sa kanila, PRLs na, kasi na-release na sila, hindi na PDLs. Restore them to society. These PRLs who are trained by professional baristas to serve in a mobile coffee cart donated to the PJPS, they learn a new skill. The name Espresso is a creative combination of the terms preso or jail and espresso for coffee. Even the coffee sizes,
Tall, grande,
venti. Hindi. Minimum, medium, maximum. Yun. Are named after the degrees of security of our correctional facilities. For the PRLs, as I mentioned, the project gives them training as baristas and further use for a fresh start. And it also helps them regain self-confidence and self-esteem, which they might have lost during their incarceration. More than just a livelihood for the PRLs, Espresso aims to break the heavy stigma that PRLs are irredeemable. Kasi sabihin, wala na kayong pag-asa. I was listening to one of the priests interviewing the PRLs working for Espresso. Sabi ni Father Junji, bagong buhay ka? Sabi gano'n. And then the PRL said, no, Father, ang feeling ko, bagong tao ako. So, the PJPS has several carts now for yung selling coffee in packages to special events, weddings, ganyan, or whatever, di ba? Pero eventually, the PJPS hopes to give itong mga PRLs their own coffee cart. Parang yun na yung kanilang source
Kabuhayan,
of livelihood.
showcase.
Yes. And then the nice thing is that this December, we were talking of coffee carts, di ba?
Yes.
By the PRLs. This December, Espresso will open its first coffee shop restaurant
Oh, wow. Where?
at the na iya.
Oh,
60 square meters free of charge. For
that's
them.
nice.
Yes.
So you can really hire more espresso, so-called
Yes.
PRLs.
PRLs.
It gives them livelihood.
Oh.
And it's interesting that you have this partnership with private groups and even organizations like PJPS. And how helpful have they been in prison reform or helping those who are incarcerated and getting them reintegrated into society?
Yeah. Private groups fall under the community pillar of our justice system. Now, the rehabilitation of PDLs would be useless if they do not get reintegrated into society as productive citizens. Prison rehabilitation, inside prison, there is already training, di ba? There is already motivation to become better citizens. Ang nagiging problema lang palagi is, sa dulo, wala naman trabaho.
Right.
Because natatakot nga yung mga employers. No? So private groups fill this role by sana offering employment to PDLs without discrimination.
And there's also one initiative, Justice, that you're helping organize. The first National Persons Deprived of Liberty Art Competition Exhibition. So this happened in October of last year at the National Museum in commemoration of the National Correctional Conscious Week. And I think you have another one, the second edition this year. So what inspired you to come up with this initiative? And how is art, beneficial to someone behind bars?
Attorney Mike, when you go to prison, and especially in the School of Fine Arts there, meron sila doon, or even to the different jails, ang daming ang gagaling na artists. Whether this be in painting, pyrography, which means yung wood burning, or sculpture, ang gagaling nila. Kaya lang, I feel na ang presyo ng mga artwork nila is hindi yung karapat-dapat.
The commensurate sa
Not
effort.
commensurate.
Or the scale or the talent.
Yes, for the scale, talent, and beauty. Because most buyers buy the artwork out of pity for the artist and not out of the
appreciation of the work.
Appreciation and beauty of the artwork. So, we came up with, nag-brainstorm kami and we came up with the idea na, okay, paano ba natin iaangat yung level at yung quality ng artwork ng mga PDLs? So, the plan was to come up with a national PDL art competition involving PDLs in the BJMP and in the Bureau of Corrections. And number 3, PRLs. So, yung mga former PDLs who have already been released. And so many joined the first national PDL art competition. And we were wondering, saan natin i-display yan? Ang hirap kumuha ng gallery. But we were so lucky that the National Museum of Fine Arts of the Philippines, through Director General Jeremy Barnes, offered a good and big space for this purpose. And the exhibit was held starting Prison Consciousness Week of last year up to January of this year. And the next thing that happened there, kasi naka-display yung mga finalists doon at yung mga winners. Leon Gallery, a leading auction house in the Philippines, agreed to sell their artworks at auction without getting anything.
Ay, wow.
Everything will go to the PDL artist. Everything. And then when we had the auction, for the first time, a PDL artwork fetched 500,000 pesos.
500,000.
500,000 pesos.
That's a lot.
Diba? Can change
Their lives.
Their lives already. Diba? And everything goes to the PDL artist. So, iba-iba yun. Basta almost 2 million pesos lahat yung umabot doon.
Right.
But that for us, parang established a record price for PDL artwork.
May I know what that painting is about or artwork?
The artwork is parang bang wood burning.
Wood burning.
Oo. And the topic or the scene was the Last Supper.
The last.
Pero malaki. Malaki. And then we are now holding the second National PDL Art Competition ngayon. And judging will be held on November 7. We will be announcing kung saan i-exhibit naman.
Right. We'll watch out for that, Justice.
Yes. Thank you. We hope to get your support in bringing to the public what this is about.
And just we've been talking about reintegration, but before you can even go there, there's one particular advocacy that actually stands out, and this is a merger between your background as a justice in the law reform sector and also your advocacy for prison reform. Good conduct time allowance law. This was controversial in the past because there were differing interpretations. Now the Supreme Court has fully settled the matter.
Yes.
How important is it that the correctional facilities are able to properly implement the good conduct time allowance law?
It's very, very important, Attorney Mike, kasi the GCTA or Good Conduct Time Allowance recognizes that good behavior and genuine reform in our detention and correctional facilities should be rewarded. It gives the PDL a tangible reason to choose the path of rehabilitation and transformation. It is an incentive structure that aligns with discipline and hope. Now, jurisprudence nullified the provisions of the 2019 Implementing Rules of and Regulations of Republic Act 10592 that provided disqualifications for earning GCTA while serving sentence. This was rectified kasi sabi nun, those charged with heinous crimes hindi qualified for GCTA. But this has been rectified in the 2024 IRR, which now expressly provides that any convicted PDL, even those convicted of heinous crimes, may earn GCTA credits. The revision of the IRR ensured that GCTA is accessible to all convicted prisoners regardless of their act or omission. This now encourages PDLs to do productive work, obey rules, and to participate in the rehabilitation and integration. To ensure that only, and this is important, to ensure that only PDLs who are actually deserving are granted GCTA credits, the law and the rules on GCTA must be properly implemented. With proper implementation, GCTA will not be subjected to misuse or corruption in the granting of early release of PDLs. Because doing so will erode public trust in our justice and correctional system. So, for the accurate implementation of the GCTA, there must be proper record keeping and constant coordination between the jails and prisons to avoid miscomputations and to ensure that all credits due to the PDL are considered for their early release.
And the importance of the carpeta system, Justice, right?
Yes.
And Justice, I understand that you are the current chairperson of the Justice Sector Coordinating Council Technical Working Group on Sector-Wide Data Reconciliation.
Yes.
So from your perspective in that position, what key reforms or structural changes are needed to make prison rehabilitation more effective and more humane?
Here, Attorney Mike, what we ultimately want is to highlight that the government must invest in the rehabilitation of PDLs as it inures to the benefit of the people. To make rehabilitation more effective, we must see it as a continuum where from the moment of incarceration to the PDL's reintegration, agencies are provided with the necessary resources. This includes better facilities, more trained personnel, psychosocial support, and adequate legal aid. Yung Justice Sector Coordinating Council really plays an important role here because justice is not only rendered by the courts. Kasi yung ibang tao yun ang misconception eh. Kala nila, kasi hinatulan na yan. Yan ang justice.
Right.
Justice starts from the justice sector, which is composed and starts and ends with the justice sector, which is composed of several agencies. Nandyan muna yung police, kung saan magre-reklamo yung mga tao, to the prosecution, then to the courts, and then to the correctional, and then to the community. Lahat yan nangangailangan ng budget. All justice sector agencies to properly function must be given the budget that they need.
And to ordinary citizens, law students perhaps, or even private institutions listening right now, Justice, how can they contribute to ongoing efforts for rehabilitation and restorative justice?
We need to see Attorney Mike, PDLs as individuals capable of change. Rehabilitation is a community effort, and ordinary citizens, as I said, as pillars of the community, must work towards breaking the stigma surrounding PDLs. They are not a lost cause. Number one, law students can participate or volunteer in legal aid programs and engage in restorative justice initiatives within their universities. Merong mga legal aid programs sa mga universities. Law schools are also enjoined to form programs where their students can assist in case handling for the PDLs. Now, as to the private institutions, they can also help with rehabilitation through education and employment. Congress aims to incentivize the employment of former prisoners through the Former Prisoners Employment Act, which provides tax credit to business establishments that will employ former prisoners. But this is yet to be approved, pending pa to. The Constitution and the Labor Code both safeguard the rights of those previously convicted against discrimination. Okay. Now, for the government, in particular, Congress and the executive, they might want to consider the Supreme Court's exhortation in the Commission on Human Rights versus the Ombudsman case, where the highest court stated, custodial facilities should be clean, adequately equipped, and sanitary with decent provisions of quarters, food, water, and the like, consistent with penal facilities envisioned in Republic Act 10575 and the Mandela Rules. The Supreme Court called the attention of the PNP to provide custodial facilities that are clean, adequately equipped, and sanitary. Persons deprived of liberty deserve no less. In fact, the Supreme Court ordered that copies of their decision in this case be furnished to Congress, the Office of the President, and the Department of Interior and Local Government. Yesterday, I saw on TV the ILG Secretary John Vic Remulla showing the public the BJMP facilities in Quezon City where they intend to house those who will be charged in the flood control corruption cases that they expect the ombudsman to be filing soon. At maayos, pag nakita nyo, well lit, and then Secretary Remulla was saying there will only be 10 PDLs per cell. Hindi yung 70, 60 na pagkakasyahin sa maliit na selda. Then, maayos naman yung bed, may decent shower space, but nothing special. Nothing special. And sana, Congress should look into making sure na ganun din ang mangyayari. Popondohan din ang lahat ng jails and prisons natin para umabot sa ganung standard. Because Secretary Remulla was even saying they intend to put up hospital facilities for those na biglang magkakasakit dun sa mga i-charge para hindi na kailangan lumabas sa ibang ospital na private. Sana ganun din ang gagawin ng Kongreso sa lahat ng jails and facilities natin. As I said, I keep on going back. The solution to all of these problems will be funding. Ponduhan yung tama na dapat ponduhan. Hindi yung mga hindi dapat mapunta doon sa hindi dapat puntahan. Now, to end this, let me quote the decision of the Supreme Court in the CHR case. The court said, to close, the court quotes Nelson Mandela. And Mandela said, "It is said that no one truly knows a nation until one has been inside its jails. A nation should not be judged by how it treats its highest citizens, but its lowest." And if I may add myself to the public, let us all help in the rehabilitation of PDLs, because anyone from the lowest to the highest citizen can go to prison. Anyone.
Very well said, Justice Karl, and thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to us.
As I will always say, Attorney Mike, baliktad. Ako ang nagpapasalamat sa inyo at sa ating mga nakikinig. Maraming salamat po.
At maraming salamat din. Thank you so much, Justice Karl Miranda. And here's Stiff Atendido Beltran, Supreme Court Information Officer, for this week's updates.
From the Supreme Court of the Philippines, here's the latest. Chief Justice Alexander Mundo on Monday administered the oath of office to the Supreme Court's new Deputy Court Administrators, or DCAs. DCA Leo Madrazo will serve as Deputy Court Administrator for Operations, DCA Lilian Baribalco for Administration, and DCA Reinelda Estacio Montesa for Regional Services. Present during the ceremony were Associate Justices Jopardim Ampao and Jose Mairas Marquez, and Court Administrator Maria Teresa Dolores Gomez Estuesta. Their appointments were announced by Senior Associate Justice Marvic MVF Leonen on October 22 during the anniversary celebration of the Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations 2022 to 2027. Before their appointment, DCA Madrazo served as Deputy Court Administrator for Mindanao, DCA Baribalco as Assistant Court Administrator, and DCA Estacio Montesa as Acting Presiding Judge of Pasig City RTC Branch 159. The appointments of the new officials are part of the Supreme Court's ongoing efforts to modernize the office of the Court Administrator. The Supreme Court en banc has approved the rules on extradition proceedings through a resolution dated April 8, 2025. The rules aim to make extradition proceedings more consistent, clear, and efficient, covering applications for warrants of arrest, hold departure orders, and bail. The rules will take effect on November 10, 2025, following their publication in the Official Gazette, in 2 newspapers of general circulation, and on the Supreme Court website. They were drafted by a technical working group led by Associate Justice Rodil Zalameda, with Associate Justice Antonio Co. Jr. as Vice Chair. Under the rules, extradition needs to go through an extradition court, which will determine if there is basis to issue an arrest warrant. Extradition will only be allowed if the crime is punishable under both Philippine law and the law of the requesting state, and if pursuant to a treaty or convention. During its session on Tuesday, the Supreme Court en banc, in a decision penned by Associate Justice Maria Filomena Singh, dismissed the petitions filed by Senator Jinggoy Estrada in connection with the Priority Development Assistance Fund, or PDAF, cases. The court dismissed Senator Estrada's petitions for certiorari involving the plunder cases against him for being moot and academic, as the Sandiganbayan had acquitted him in January 2024. The court also dismissed Senator Estrada's petitions for certiorari in the graft cases against him, rejecting his contention that his graft charges under Section 3, Paragraph E of RA number 3019 are deemed absorbed by his plunder charges under RA number 7080 or the Anti-Plunder Law. The court declared that the two offenses, plunder and graft, punish distinct wrongs and may be prosecuted separately. Meanwhile, the SC En Banc, also during its session on Tuesday, approved the rules on Filipino Sign Language interpreting in the judiciary, a landmark measure that institutionalizes the use of Filipino Sign Language, or FSL, in court proceedings to ensure equal access to justice for the deaf community. The FSL rules operationalize RA number 11106, or the Filipino Sign Language Act, and affirm the state's commitment under the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to guarantee the full participation of deaf Filipinos in judicial processes. Drafted by the Technical Working Group, chaired by Associate Justice Japar de Maampao, and composed of members from the Office of the Court Administrator, representatives of trial and appellate courts, the Komisyon sa Wikang Filipino, deaf organizations, and interpreters groups, the FSL rules were refined through extensive meetings, stakeholder consultation, and a write-shop held earlier this year. In another development, the SC En Banc approved on Tuesday, October 28, the 2025 Code of Conduct and Accountability for Court Officials and Personnel, which updates the 2004 Code of Conduct for Court Personnel to address contemporary ethical challenges. The 2025 Code includes new provisions on the responsible use of social media and artificial intelligence, the use of gender-fair, child-friendly, and culturally sensitive language across judicial communications, and prohibition against accepting gifts, tips, or other gratuities for assisting or attending to litigants, lawyers, or other court users. The 2025 Code was drafted by the subcommittee, led by its chairperson, Associate Justice Maria Filomena Singh, incorporating feedback from nationwide consultations held during the Ethics Consultative Caravan. It will take effect 15 calendar days after publication in the Official Gazette, or 2 newspapers of general circulation, and its posting on the SC website. Meanwhile, the SC En Banc resolved on Tuesday to direct the Office of the Court Administrator, or OCA, to monitor the filing of cases involving corruption in infrastructure projects before the regional trial courts. Once such cases are filed, the SC will designate special courts to exclusively hear and decide corruption-related cases arising from infrastructure projects. The SC continues to implement reforms across all courts under the Strategic Plan for Judicial Innovations 2022 to 2027, including the development of eCourt PH and other digitalization projects aimed at enhancing efficiency, transparency, and accountability in the judiciary. You are now up to date with the Philippine Supreme Court. I am Tiffat Beltran, Supreme Court Information Officer.
And that's our podcast this week. Join us again next time for a detailed discussion of select cases decided by the Supreme Court. I'm Atty. Mike Navallo, your Supreme Court Chief Communications Officer. You can catch this podcast on the Supreme Court Public Information Office's accounts on X, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. You can also catch previous editions on our website and on Spotify. This podcast episode was produced by the Supreme Court Public Information Office with Attorney Karen Martinez, Jay Rimpilio, May Sibal, and Ramir Christopher Simbahon as researchers, Brian Austria, Don Ryan Balza, Lawrence Olanio, Austin Aliscad, and Bea Batong as audio and video editors, and Tyke Flores and Jerome Batumalaki as web editors.